So good morning, everybody. All right, let's get real about life. This is our third week into February, and our theme is let's get real. Come on, get real, and we're getting real about life today. So as we continue our month of getting real, today we're going to get real about life. And by life, I mean with a lowercase l, this human life, and our life experience with all of the twists and the turns and the ups and the downs and the joys and the sorrows. The whole gamut of things, right? Everybody's familiar with the word gamut. So I am also talking about life with a capital L. Remember, just not too long ago, we did that whole series. That sound familiar? We did the whole month of the lowercase l versus the uppercase L. And so we're going to get a little more into that today. But as Ernest Holmes says, the uppercase L is, in the glossary, he defines it as the animating principle of being, that inner something that makes everything live. That which runs through all, which enables anything to be what it is. That is the capital L. And that which he speaks about in The Art of Living, which was formerly called this thing called life, which I'm wondering if that was one of the books you got there too. All right. He says that there is a universal wholeness seeking expression through everything. We are calling it simply life. Life is infinite energy coupled with the limitless creative imagination. It is the invisible essence and substance of every visible form. Its nature is goodness and truth and wisdom and beauty, as well as energy and imagination. We talked a little bit about imagination earlier today. So today we're going to get real about the interplay between the lowercase l, life, and the uppercase L, life. But we're going to do it not as we did it the last time when we talked about that. We're going to do it in a little different way. And I want to begin with a parable that is going to be what we use to guide us this morning. We're going to unpack it a little bit. So as I share it, just be present for whatever you see yourself in, anywhere in this parable. So once upon a time, there was a joyful stream of water, dancing and singing as she ran down the top of the mountain. Soon she became a young and beautiful river, finding her way among the hills and the forests and the meadows. As she continued to wind her way gracefully among the hills and the meadows, her greatest desire was to go to the ocean. Then one day, she noticed the clouds of all sorts of colors and forms. She became mesmerized, and from that moment on, she did nothing but chase after the clouds. She wanted to possess a cloud, to have one for herself. But clouds float and travel in the sky, and they were always changing their form. Because of the impermanent nature of clouds, the river suffered very much. Her life became about chasing after clouds, one after another, but because she could never catch one, despair and anger and resentment entered into her heart. Then one day, a strong wind came and blew away all of the clouds in the sky. The sky became completely empty, and so did the river. She thought that life was not worth living, for there were no longer any clouds to chase after. She wanted to die, but how can a river cease to be? That night, the river had the opportunity to go back to herself for the first time. She'd been running for so long after something outside of herself that she had never seen herself. That night, for the very first time, she heard her own crying, the sounds of the water crashing against the banks of the river. Because she was able to hear her own voice, she discovered something quite important. She realized that what she had been looking for was already in herself. A voice from within whispered to her that the clouds are nothing but water. Clouds are born from water and will return to water. And she found out that she herself is also water. The next morning, when the sun was in the sky, she discovered something very beautiful. She saw the blue sky for the first time. She'd never noticed it before. She'd only been interested in the clouds, and she had missed seeing the sky, which is, of course, the home of the clouds. Clouds are impermanent, but the sky is stable. In that moment, she realized that the immense sky had been within her heart since the very beginning. This great insight brought peace and happiness. As she saw the vast, wonderful blue sky, she knew that her peace and stability would never be lost again. That afternoon the clouds returned, but this time she did not want to possess any of them. She could see the beauty of each cloud, and she was able to welcome all of them. When a cloud came by, she would greet it with loving kindness. When the cloud wanted to go away, she would wave it happily and away with loving kindness. She realized that all clouds are her. She didn't have to choose between clouds and herself. Peace and harmony existed between her and the clouds. That evening something wonderful happened. When she opened her heart completely to the evening sky, she received the gift of a full moon. Beautiful and round, like a jewel within herself. She'd never imagined that she could receive such a beautiful gift. She received the gift of that beautiful moon within her heart, and in that moment the water, the clouds, and the moon took one another's hands, and they walked slowly, slowly to the ocean. It's a really beautiful story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that a gorgeous parable?
Where'd you find that?
But what does it have to do with getting real about life? Lower L and the capital L. Well, we're going to look at 3 pieces from it. Number 1, the purity, beauty, and innocence that we are born with. The river began by being a joyful stream of water. We see our children doing that when they're young, right? Joyful and full of energy and happy. The river was a spring, always dancing and singing as she ran down from the top of the mountain. As she grew, she beautifully winded her way gracefully among the hills and the meadows, and her greatest desire was to go to the ocean. So doesn't that describe the purity and the beauty and the innocence with which we come into this world, each and every one of us? We teach a new thought that we are born in original innocence. We are original blessings, not born in original sin, as many of us were told in previous religious experiences, perhaps. We are original blessings. And there's something innately in us that yearns to retain that connection to Source that we came in with. I believe we have it at first, but the minute we come into this world, we grow in an ever-increasing amnesia. Remember that story I told just a little while ago about the little boy who wanted to have some time alone with his baby sister? And the parents were worried and nervous about it, but he wanted to get close to her, this newborn, so he could whisper in her ear and say, "Baby, please tell me what God is like. I'm starting to forget." He was only 4. Where are we now as far as what we're remembering, as our connection there? I think it's something we have to remind ourselves almost every single day. So we come into this life having that beautiful connection to Source, to that life, that capital L, to the ocean in our parable. Innocent and pure and beautiful and playful and joyous. And then we learn about the clouds. All those things in life that we want but we don't have. Commercials are very good about showing us that, aren't they? Yeah. I think DVR is the greatest thing that was ever invented. Don't miss that. So yeah, maybe that was a God-inspired idea, right? So number 2, we chase after clouds. The river's life, which is lowercase l, became about chasing after the clouds, one after the other. But because she could never catch one, despair and anger and resentment entered into her heart. In the Buddhist tradition, it says that we suffer because we chase after desires. If we had no desires, we would not suffer. But that seems to go against our New Thought teachings that says that the desires in our heart are planted there by Source. And if it is our divine right to experience and to express them. So which is it? The Buddhist way or our teaching? Which is it? Perhaps it's both. Perhaps the message our river is bringing us is that in this human life, we can get so caught up in chasing our clouds, whatever that looks like in our own individual lives, and being unhappy about not having them, that we lose sight of everything else and become unhappy, desperate, and resentful. In other words, we suffer. But when we quit chasing it and open ourselves up to the beauty of life, the sky and the moon, then peace and happiness occur and the clouds take on a whole new meaning. Our power to create a life that we love living lies not in chasing whatever the clouds are, but in loving them into our lives. Loving those clouds into our lives. In other words, not chasing after what we want but don't have, but rather loving what is. Just last weekend, our family had big plans for a family dinner. We were going to have everybody, extended family, everybody was going to be there. But last minute issues kept a few members away, such as illness and work and things like that. And so we could have focused on the members that were not there and been, a little upset that, gee, we didn't have the full cadre. But instead, we celebrated who was there. We celebrated who was there, and we had a great time. So we loved what was, what is. Don't give up what you do have, wishing that it could be different. Don't give up what you already have, wishing that it could be different. We can love into our lives exactly what we want because the infinite source of life is love and is yearning to bring us that which we love. Remember the law of attraction. What we love attracts more of what we love when we focus on that. In The Art of Living, on page 24, Ernest Holmes says, you do not have to beseech life to be good or to bring good into your life. Life is like the sun. It shines on everything. Get out of the shadows. Crawl out of your basement. Open the windows of your mind. Open the doors of your soul. Lift up your thought and let life be to you whatever you wish it to be. So we open the channels to a joyous, fulfilled life by focusing on what we love, not on chasing after what we don't have. And then the river gives us our final message. Return to the beginning, as the river did when she held hands with the sky and the moon and walked slowly, slowly to the ocean. So that's our number 3. Return and surrender to the source. Return, surrender to the source, to life. The word surrender, and I know this has been a challenge. I know Rich and I had many discussions about, how that word felt to us. Surrender. Gosh, it brings up images of, waving a white flag and, conceding a loss. It kind of hits that ego, right? It sounds like an act that is extremely disempowering, but it is not. If I don't mean white flags, giving up, conceding, then what do I mean by surrender? And I once heard the spiritual practice of surrender defined as having a belief that as deeply as you are willing to let go, Spirit is willing to fill us up. Isn't that beautiful? Let me say it again and make it more personal. The spiritual practice of surrender means having a belief that as deeply as I am willing to let go, Spirit is willing to fill me up. And that's Eckhart Tolle too, as we release and surrender our ego and let that go. And it feels like death, but it creates that vacuum that draws in Spirit and fills us up with a sense of joy that is comparable to none. So we could see it as a willingness to step into the unknown, the greater, the higher self's expression, which is never fully revealed until the moment it is revealed. And that takes trust. Holmes tells us in The Art of Living that our highest satisfaction in life comes from a sense of conscious union with this invisible life, capital L. And that is what this journey in life is really all about. Realizing who we are in God, who we are in Spirit. Returning to the center, returning to source, returning to the ocean of life itself. And so our beautiful example of the river's journey helped us get real about the interplay between the lower L, life, and the upper case, life. As a reminder, we are pure, we are born pure and innocent and beautiful and magnificent because we are born of life. We lose our footing and sometimes our way in this life when we chase after that which we want and don't have rather than loving it into being. And our greatest, deepest satisfaction in this life occurs when we are conscious, when we are in that conscious union with the invisible, the ineffable, and the eternal life. So let's choose. Today, let's choose to be that love that attracts into our lives exactly what we desire to experience right now in this very present moment. Are you with me on that?
Yes.
All right. And so it is.